Wow, so what'll scammers think of next? It seems now some scammers are selling seeds for exotic AI generated flowers that don't exist. I guess they're trying to claim that you're buying the actual physical seeds that you could actually plant in your garden, but the flowers don't exist. The scammers take your money and you never hear from them again. Let's see what hackers are saying about this at Hacker News. At the top level, VWVW says, very satirically, "Thank you for your purchase. Here is the seed to receive beautiful flowers. 735037659271543. Use this with model Juggernaut XL, etc., etc., etc." So this commenter is punning on the double meaning of the word seed. Seed could also be used to specify which random number generators to use for an AI. Just a silly hacker joke. DVH says, the monkey orchid was featured in one of the Corridor Digital video in the context of AI scams. There are a few similar species, and they link to a Wikipedia article on monkey orchid. Let's look what that is. It just leads to a disambiguation page, so not a very good link. Gaduli says, we talk too much about hallucination and too little about the more mundane elephant in the room, that AI, whatever its effectiveness, will simply be used more for scam and deception than positive uses. Weinstein replies saying, just make scams illegal. Problem solved. Oh yeah, good idea. Maybe we should make murder illegal too. That'll stop all these murders. Smoosh replies saying, if only it were that easy, the economy would collapse if scams were stopped. There would be no progress. The president would be poor. We are already losing the scam war with China. This would just hand victory to them. Is that the world you want to live in? And he indicates that this is meant as sarcasm. But seriously, I wonder how much of the economy is scam activity. Yeah, this tongue-in-cheek comment reminds me of the famous scene from the film Dr. Strangelove. Mr. President, we cannot allow a mine shaft gap. Slop in the Bag says, I find it fascinating that this is a popular anti-coin argument, but often the same people making that argument actually find AI useful, so they experience a mild case of cognitive dissonance. This is actually a very fascinating comment from an epistemological perspective. Many people who are anti-coin craft a similar argument, even though those very people who are anti-coin are often pro-AI. And the point that Slop in the Bag here is making is that the same argument works in both cases. So if you see someone using it in one case and not the other, without some explanation of why it doesn't work in the other, then it might indicate that they're not entirely faithful, at least at a subconscious level. Anyway, Hans VM replies to that saying, the coin argument is usually paired with, there are no non-scam use cases which aren't better served by other methods / tech. This is going off on a tangent. Let's go back to High NAEUV replies to Gaduli saying, I don't think a few scams here and there outweigh positive use cases. And for some reason, a lot of people downvoted that, as you can see by the gray-colored text. Probably because a lot of people on Hacker News are scared of AI because it threatens their job security. C. Willu replies to High Not UV saying, I don't think a few stock photo replacements here and there outweigh the negative use cases. Obviously, C. Willu is anti-AI. Plankton replies saying, it's not just a few scams though, it's a lot of scams and a lot of propaganda and a lot of other bad things, and even beyond the overtly negative, it's a tidal wave of slop in music, in publishing, in everything else. Some technology has more negative use cases than positive. This appears to be one of them. Yeah, you definitely get the impression a lot of people on Hacker News are very anti-AI, which makes perfect sense, since, as I said, it imperils their job security. At the top level, Nam Dene says, Those oversized teddy bear pictures are horrifying. Look like something from the day of the Triffids. JDW64 says, when I work as a freelancer, I get a lot of requests lately to create fake AI manipulated images for scams, especially requests to generate fake IDs using AI. Oh, that's interesting. Personally, I feel that there is a need for AI watermarks on image generation models, but at the same time, if watermarks become mandatory, it would effectively kill the business viability of those models. It feels like the same problem as gun control. I would imagine that AI watermarks would be fairly straightforward to circumvent. Just erase the watermark. Just crop it out, or if it's invisible, then just vary the pixels. I suppose someone somewhere has a PhD thesis on ways to watermark things invisibly that are hard to tamper with. Armchair Hacker replies saying, as far as I know, the big models have watermarks that are supposed to be hard to remove. But I don't think it's possible on local models. Not just questionable because it would prevent full open source, but if someone discovers a way to easily remove a local model's watermark, it'll work permanently. It's a bit analogous to New York and California regulating 3D printers, which I disapprove. But more invasive because local models are softer, and here the danger is not guns but photos. I wonder, how would these watermarks that are supposed to be hard to remove, how would those persist if I use my camera to take a picture of my computer screen? Anyway, Jagar Loud writes, may I ask the reason your clients don't just generate these things themselves? A good question. JDW64 replies saying, usually this kind of work is difficult with large AIs. They either get rejected by policy or don't produce stable results. So you have to use local models, but local models have inconsistent quality and the setup is complicated. That's why clients usually hear about keywords like Laura somewhere and say, I heard you can generate it with this method. But in reality, they don't know how to install a local model, serve it, run it, or stabilize the results. And that's where freelancers like me come in. As a freelancer, it's hard to completely ignore this trend because freelancers like me aren't inside a company. We're usually a step behind on the latest news. So we end up searching through the information and keywords that clients share with us, organizing it, and following industry trends that we pick up when we visit companies for consulting. In any case, most clients aren't completely clueless. They usually provide keywords like, I heard you can do it this way, and make their request. This is a very interesting insider look at the kind of not societally approved things that people are starting to do with AI. At the top level, Fur says, I've seen this for approximately forever, especially poppies. They got creative with that amount of petal surface. They were simply photoshopped back then. So I guess people have been selling seeds to non-existent flowers for quite a while, apparently. Aaron Brethurst says, all from well-known brand Sheila Design, or Sheila Degiz, and I'm not sure if that's a typo or not. Gwerbin replies saying they don't want people with good instincts buying. Yes. So it's not a typo on Aaron Brethurst's behalf. Apparently that's actually the brand name. And Gwerbin points out a common thing that scammers do is to deliberately throw typos and things like that in because they want to weed out intelligent people. They are interested in gullible people like grandma who will fall for their scams. That's why the email from the Nigerian prince will have terrible grammar and spelling, not because the author is unable to make an email with good spelling, but because the author wants to filter for people who will overlook or who will be too gullible to notice the bad grammar, etc. At the top level, Diving for Gold says, I've been lied to multiple times. Sellers claiming to sell me seeds for the relatively rare pink-flowered version of Pride of Barbados, most off eBay, from foreign countries. All of them germinated and grew to the common orange-yellow version. I gave up trying. Oh, that adds a whole new dimension to this. So apparently, at least some of these scammers actually do ship you physical seeds, just not seeds of the flowers that they're claiming they are of. That would make it even harder to prosecute them. Huh. Or at least it makes it so that they have like extra levels of defense. Is very interesting. Pixel Popping says, pretty smart, pretty smart. A kind of pointless comment there. Speak Plainly says, medieval grifts are back. We urgently need a modern Jack and the Beanstalk movie. SFX says, image generators should embed their prompts and eBay should run a slop detector. You know, Speak Plainly's comment about the Jack and the Beanstalk, that's actually a very interesting comment. I never realized, because I suppose the last time I thought about Jack and the Beanstalk was when I was a little kid. But now, thinking about Jack and the Beanstalk as an adult, it makes perfect sense that the purpose of the story was to give your kids a defense against getting scammed. In reality, the person would give your kid 3 beans in exchange for the family horse, and they would just be plain ordinary beans, and you got scammed, and you lose the family horse, and it's a financial crisis. But kids are too young to understand financial crisis. So instead, you tell them a story about how the beans go up to a giant who's terrifying and scary. So that will scare the kids away from that scam. SFX says, image generators should embed their prompts and eBay should run a slop detector. Well, yeah. But again, the criminals will just erase the embedded prompts. True4Eno replies saying, I believe Grok embeds some modern standard provenance metadata, haven't checked what data it contains though, and Google uses their own invisible watermarking that unfortunately only Google can detect. Well, again, I don't see what's preventing me from just displaying the image on my screen and taking a picture with my camera. It seems unlikely that these hidden metadata would be transferred that way. And I think SPH kind of says this in a more tongue-in-cheek way, saying, and we should solve world hunger while we're at it. Yeah, and give everybody a pony. CodeMog says, this should inform entrepreneurs. People want unique and beautiful flowers. I don't see why it's not possible to do at least some modifications with gene editing methods. Might be more expensive than what people are willing to pay for just some garden flowers. KG replies saying, what the world needs is more new and innovative invasive species that were cooked up in a lab to look cool. What could possibly go wrong? And CodeMog replies saying, care to explain why making a sunflower a different color is harmful? Why respond to things with the least charitable interpretation? Yeah, it's very interesting, these Hacker News threads, seeing what the people in the industry say in response to these AI developments. I'm Dr. Samuel Allen Alexander, mathematician and philosopher. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.